Hi, I'm gonna teach you about Dungeons and Dragons. You may be wondering if I'm qualified, and the answer, I don't know, but I spent a lot of money on these books and I've read all of them, so I know a decent amount. I've also been playing for a year and a bit, so I kind of know what I'm doing in practice, I guess. And the main thing to remember when it comes to the rules about Dungeons and Dragons is everybody plays it a little bit differently. So if I say something wrong in this video, or you play it a different way, feel free to let me know in the comments. Just please don't yell at me. I don't want to cry.
Willow, no, you took the weapon! No!
Hi, it's me, Life's Complicated, actually uploading for once. Since I've recently started uploading my own Dungeons and Dragons podcast here on my YouTube channel, I've been starting to get a couple of questions about how the game actually works. If you've ever asked that question, then this video is for you. If you want to see more Dungeons and Dragons content in the future, let me know. If there's anything I say in the video that you want to be clarified or you want me to go into a little bit more detail on, let me know in the comments and I'll make sure to make that a video as well. Onto the information! Now, the easiest way to put it is that D&D, or Dungeons and Dragons, is a multiplayer role-playing game, where you and a bunch of your nerdy friends hang out for a couple hours and just fight evil guys and roleplay. When you start looking more closely into how a Dungeons and Dragons campaign is created, we'll start to see that there's so many things put into it. The Dungeon Master, or Game Master, also known as the DM or GM respectively, can build a whole world. If you're wondering, I have a video planned for the future where I go into depth on how to actually build a campaign, so keep an eye out for that. A lot of people tend to shy away from D&D because, from an outside perspective, it can seem really complicated. But honestly, it's super simple. As long as you're not a spellcaster. Don't get me wrong, spellcasters are so much fun, and they uncover a whole new realm of possibilities. But as your first character in Dungeons and Dragons, it can get a little bit complicated. I will be doing a video on spellcasters and their whole stats and how to build them and everything, so don't worry. When it comes to creating an actual character, all you need is some creativity, and the help of D&D Beyond. D&D Beyond is like that mom friend that you didn't really invite to your friend group, but kinda just showed up. But they had snacks, so you let them stay. On D&D Beyond, there is a character creator, where it guides you through the steps of creating a character. But if you want to go the old school route of using a character sheet, I'll get into that as well. Roleplay! Another thing that tends to scare people away is roleplay. The best way to go about it, I find, is to just throw yourself into it and hope for the best. If you can find yourself a group of people that you're comfortable with, or at least equally uncomfortable, eventually together you'll get into the swing of things. And you don't have to have a roleplay heavy game if you don't want to. That's the great thing about Dungeons and Dragons, is you can truly customize it however you want. If you want to be fighting evil things the entire time, you can do that. How to actually do things. Am I filming this on a different day because I completely forgot to film it yesterday? Yes. First thing you're gonna need to do is get yourself some dice. Now, you don't really need that many, and there are programs you can use online, but dice are pretty. When you want to do something in Dungeons and Dragons, you'll just say you want to do it. And then the Dungeon Master will tell you to roll one of these. These are d20s, also known as the most important dice in the game. And as in the name, they have 20 sides, and they sound nice when they roll. After the Dungeon Master tells you what you're going to have to roll, the higher the number you roll, the better, and the more likely the thing you're trying to do will go well. For example, if you're trying to scale a wall, your DM may tell you to roll an athletics check. So you'll roll a d20 and add your athletics modifier, which is a number that will be on your character sheet. Say you roll a 20 on your dice. That is the best you can possibly roll, and it's called a natural 20. Every Dungeon Master plays this differently, but in some campaigns, rolling a natural 20 means it's an automatic success, no matter what the DC was. The DC is the difficulty class. And some other Dungeon Masters don't play it that it's an automatic success, but it's still really good. But then there's also the other side of that equation, which is when you roll a natural 1, which is not good. It is usually an automatic fail, and something usually goes wrong. For example, if you're trying to scale that wall, you may fall off and take some damage. Now, say you want to hit something. Let's be honest, that's why most people play D&D. Anger issues. When you roll to an attack, you're going to do the same thing. Roll a d20 and then add the attack bonus. Find the attack bonus, it'll generally be in the stats of the thing you're using to hit with. And if you roll high enough to beat the armor class of the thing you're trying to hit, you'll do damage. Which means you get to roll one of these. Fuck. My bad. Every weapon and attack does a different amount of damage. Sometimes you'll roll a d6, sometimes you'll roll a d4, it all depends. And that's the basics. You roll a dice, the higher the better, and the more likely you'll succeed. And that's how the game works. Once everyone has their character and your dungeon master has either spent months or hours creating the campaign, it's time to get on to session 0. Session 0! For some reason, the first session of your campaign is called session 0. It's similar to how the first episode of a lot of shows is called the pilot episode. And session 0 sort of works the same as well. It's where your DM sets the scene for the whole campaign. Session 0 is almost always chaos, especially if you've never played D&D before. And that's okay. D&D is all about having fun with your friends, even if there are some tears along the way. Then after that, it's pretty smooth sailing. You get to roleplay with your friends, have some fun, and fight some evil guys in initiative. Initiative! Let's talk about initiative! Arguably the most complicated part of Dungeons & Dragons. It's when you roll a d20 and add your dexterity modifier to see what order you'll be doing things in. In-game, initiative lasts up to 6 seconds, which means you have time to do 3 different things: an action, a bonus action, and movement. With your action, you can attack something, you can cast a spell, you can use an object, or if you're a bard, you can seduce something. Bonus actions can include something like hitting something with your offhand at higher levels, or using a class/race feature. Movement can vary depending on the situation. As a part of your race, you have a set movement speed, and depending on the conditions that you're moving in, it can depict how far you can go. For example, if you're moving on normal terrain, you can move normally, whereas getting up from being prone uses half of your movement speed, or you could climb or crawl, which takes 10 feet rather than 5. Generally, when you're playing in person, you might have a battle map, and each square usually counts for 5 feet of movement. So if you were climbing something, you would only be able to move 1 square when you would normally be able to move 2. Another cool thing you can do in initiative is a reaction, which is an action caused by a certain trigger. You can take an opportunity attack when an enemy leaves your attack range, or you can do a readied action, which is when you hold your main action from before to be triggered by a certain event. For example, you're in the middle of a huge fight with a clan of goblins. It's your turn, but you don't have sight on any of the goblins because they're all hiding. So instead, you decide to ready your action for if you see a goblin. Now it's the goblins' turn. They peek out of the corner and you see them. And even though it's not your turn, you can still hit them because you readied that action beforehand. And I think that basically sums up initiative. If you ever don't know what to do, or if you're allowed to do something, try it. And if your dungeon master says you aren't able to, then that's fine. Want to jump off a cliff and turn into a fish splatting to death? Go for it. Marisha. Want to climb up your friend's back and hit the enemy from above? Why not try it? Maybe you'll even get an advantage to the hit if your DM is nice. Advantage is when you roll twice and take the higher number, and disadvantage is similar. You roll twice and take the lower one. Your imagination is your only limit, until the DM stops you. If you're a player, one of the most important things is to respect the DM. They are essentially the god of gods in D&D, and they make the final say in what goes. And if you do something that they don't like too many times, they're literally able to smite you on the spot, so be careful. How to get started? Now that you have all this epic information about D&D, it's time to play! The best way to find people to play with you is to bully your friends, which may or may not be what I did. But you can also check on social media to try and find people who want to play. You may also be able to check out some local game stores. They might be hosting some games. And another way to get into D&D without actually playing the game itself is watching podcasts. There are a ton of amazing and talented Dungeons & Dragons players out there. My personal favorites are Just Roll With It and Critical Role, which I'll link in the description. And as I mentioned earlier, I also have my own podcast, which I host with my friends. That'll also be linked in the description. A good thing about the podcast I have is most of the people are beginners, so I do get to explain some of the rules throughout the game, so it's hard to get confused. And that is how you play D&D! With this video being so short, I could only go into so much detail. But I will be uploading more videos soon, as I have a lot of plans. But I will be uploading more videos soon where I'll do a deep dive into certain parts of the game. If you have any requests on what to do first, comment and let me know. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much for watching, I truly appreciate all of you. And I'll see you in the next one. Farewell.